The reviews are in. Is Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl worth it? Let's take a look. Yo, whoa, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I bring you guys a brand new video today, and today we are diving into the world of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, the new Pokemon games that are gonna be releasing on Friday the 19th, and actually tomorrow here in the US if you're in Australia. These games are coming very, very soon, and they are considered faithful remakes of the original Generation 4 games of Diamond and Pearl. In this video, I'm gonna summarize a handful of different articles and reviews that have actually surfaced from today that have given their insight into the game and give you my thoughts as well from everything that I've seen of whether or not I think this game is ultimately worth it. And it's gonna be a pretty good breakdown, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Be sure to hit that like button down below if you guys do. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, as I am gonna be posting a ton of gameplay footage here on the channel between Let's Plays, tutorials, and much, much more. And if you wanna pre-order the game, you can check out the link in the description below and pre-order the game through Best Buy. It helps me out if you do that. It actually helps me out a lot. So if you're gonna get the game and you're in the US, grab it through my Best Buy link. It doesn't hurt you at all, it just helps me out. So without further ado, let's talk about the reviews and everything going down in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Platinum. Shining Pearl, it's Shining Pearl. It's not Platinum at all, actually. So as I mentioned, we've got a handful of different reviews, and I'm going to kind of go through a few of them, summarize some of their thoughts, and then give you my thoughts. So the first one we have here is Nintendo Life, and their thought is it kind of falls in between Heart Gold Soul Silver, Fire Red Leaf Green, and Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee in terms of the fact that it's a good remake, but it's not an amazing remake, right? It's not the Heart Gold Soul Silver of the generation. It's not a game that you're going to return to once you finish, basically saying that it doesn't have a lot of replay value. It's kind of a one and done type game. It failed to include a lot of elements from Generation 4's best game, which is Platinum, and I think that that's probably one of the biggest takeaways here, is there are some small Platinum elements, but generally speaking, this is a copy and paste of Diamond and Pearl, from pretty much everything down to the gym leaders themselves and the Pokemon that they're using. You're pretty much facing the same exact teams and everything that you would if you had just played the original Diamond and Pearl, you know, 15 years ago. They go on to say that they're not a big fan of the overworld because they feel that it takes away any emotion that the characters would have, and characters like Cyrus simply look unthreatening, which otherwise they would previously. And the battle kind of scenes are amazing, but they're really not a fan of the chibi art style. What's funny is some of the other reviews actually like that chibi art style, but nonetheless. Nintendo Life goes on to say that they love the music. They think that there's a step back in terms of the Pokemon not spawning in the overworld, but the underground gives you a lot of opportunities to get some cool Pokemon. And it's almost exploitable at the sense that you get access to the Grand Underground before your second badge, and you can immediately get Pokemon like Absol and Houndoom, which will make it so your team is straight up busted. So you can very easily fly through this game, and again, with very minimal changes to difficulty, this is a game that otherwise is pretty easy. They gave it a 6 out of 10, and there was also some knocking on the experience share, which again, you cannot turn off in this game, which is a huge miss. I think if they simply made it so you could turn it off, that would be amazing. Now, to summarize some of these other reviews, you've got things like Game Explain saying they liked it a lot, but really felt like it was missing Platinum content. Checkpoint gives it an 8 out of 10, which is a faithful recreation. It fixes the need to grind, but because you can't turn off the XP share, things get a little crazy there, and it's thin on new content. It's basically Diamond and Pearl. GameSpot gave it a 7 out of 10. They like the chibi art style. There's some modern tweaks like, you know, fairy typing and things like that, but you know, it doesn't really have anything else. It's pretty much the same exact game. It does feel like classic Pokemon, but it's lacking on anything new. 6 Access gives it excellent improvements, strong story and gameplay. They like the art style, but again, it doesn't have anything new, and it's missing features at launch, which to some is a huge deal, and you can make that argument that without them having all the full online connectivity and things like that, this game is ultimately lacking. One thing we do know, and this is reviewers aside, one thing we do know is that this game does have some post-game content, and in terms of things that have changed, the gym leaders themselves have better teams than they did before. Even though they're the same teams and the same levels, the moves and the strategies that they use are more advanced. For example, we know that through one of the leaks that Byron, the Steel-type gym leader, leaves with his Bronzor and sets up Trick Room to allow his slower Pokemon like Bastiodon and Steelix to deal more damage. We see some cool strategies like that throughout the game, and the Elite Four is certainly much harder than it was in the past, where these Pokemon have legitimate strategies. When you ultimately get to the post-game, that's where the difficulty increases, when you can rematch and rebattle the gym leaders as well as the Elite Four, and ultimately take on what has been the hardest, highest level trainer you can ultimately take on in a Pokemon game, which is Cynthia in the Elite Four rematch. I believe her Garchomp gets all the way up to level 88, which I'm pretty sure is the strongest trainer battle we've ever faced before. So it's very interesting that they added this post-game content into Diamond and Pearl remakes while keeping pretty much everything else the same. And that's really what it comes down to. Everything else is exactly the same. There's not a whole lot of new content. There's not a whole lot to do. If you've played through Diamond and Pearl, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are basically the exact same game until you get to the Elite Four, where the battles are actually a little bit harder. And then after that, again, you can rematch the various gym leaders and rematch the Elite Four, and that is gonna be a more extensive, difficult, challenging battle situation. Now, there are some really cool updates, like the Grand Underground. That's gonna be one of the biggest takeaways. The Grand Underground has been basically amplified, right? You have these different biomes that you can search in. You can get a whole new plethora of Pokemon. You can get access to a bunch of the Platinum Pokemon, as well as the post-game decks expanding you to pretty much everything up to Gen 4, including starters. So there is a little bit of post-game content with that, allowing you to have some kind of longevity playing through the game. But again, it really is just a faithful copy and paste of Diamond and Pearl. So if you're someone who played the original games, this might be a fun kind of nostalgia trip for you. But I think the biggest takeaway is this is the kind of game that you really don't play more than once. You'll play it, you'll beat it, you'll probably put it down, and then you'll wait for Pokemon Legends Arceus to come out at the end of January. Overall, the Metacritic scores are in, and they have, I think, almost 30 different critic reviews at this point, and they have given it a Metascore of 77 and 76, which I'm pretty sure is, for comparison, Pokemon Y and Moon were upper 80s. Heart Gold was, I think, in the 80s. New Snap was 79. Crown Tundra was 75. Isle of Armor 69. 77 is, you know, obviously lower than New Snap. So far these reviews are coming in as being relatively low in comparison to some of the other Pokemon games. Now, I would say that it's really important to note that these are just a handful of people's opinions. You know, 25, 30, 40 people's opinions who reviewed this game and who had a chance to play it early. I think ultimately, my thought on it is gonna be a worthwhile thing. As a Pokemon fan, I'm most certainly excited about it. From the gameplay footage I've seen, I really think that the actual battles look incredible. I've grown to like the chibi art style, despite the fact that I was kind of a hater initially. And I think that the post-game content is enough to tide us over until the release of Legends Arceus. So I'm ultimately excited to dive in. I'll be streaming it for an entire week on my 153-hour live stream marathon on twitch.tv/aDrive starting at Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. So tune in for tons of giveaways. I think we're giving away like a dozen Nintendo Switches and much more. So be sure to tune in for that. We're gonna have a blast with that. But that's the reviews, man. The reviews are in. Not super great reviews, if I'm being honest, but I think that's because people wanted Platinum. They wanted new content, and ultimately we got exactly what they said we were gonna get, a faithful remake of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. So now that we've got some of these different reviews, and I'll put them in the comments or the description if you guys want to check them out yourself, does that change your perspective on the game? Are you still going to pick it up? Are you excited to play it? Etc, etc. Now that we've had all these leaks, I actually am more excited than I was before, because the post-game, the challenging content that's in the post-game has me amped up. As much as I wish there was a Battle Frontier, the Battle Tower might not be too bad, but I think the rematches, the gym leader rematches, that kind of stuff is gonna make me pretty happy, and I'm excited to shiny hunt with PokeRadar. If you're looking to pre-order the game, you can check it out through my link in the description below at Best Buy. It helps me out a ton if you guys use that. Like the video if you guys enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and I can't wait to explore Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl with you guys over the next few months. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.